Iowa State men's basketball has a weapon that up until this point has potentially not been talked about enough. Today, we talk about it on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day, making this your first listen in or watch of the day. Wherever you're watching or listening, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone State. We're all in this together. Sing it with me. That being said, today we are going to break down the Cyclones basketball game against UCF, obviously the box score, but in greater detail as well. And we'll preview the women's game against BYU in the third segment. So don't go anywhere for that juicy news kind of around that game. That being said, let's just summarize the UCF game in one phrase, shall we? Well, that was significantly more fun than the West Virginia game, huh? That was awesome. Obviously, the West Virginia whole situation, interesting. Obviously, our loss to West Virginia being one, but they lose in their subsequent game as well. So, sometimes the teams are going to bring out the hammer against the big dogs. That's how it's going to go. But Iowa State, my question was really, how does this team bounce back? And boy, did they ever. I'm sorry, UCF fans. You found yourselves in the way, essentially, of an Iowa State team that had a lot to, I'll say, prove, although it's probably not the best way to go about it. And who better to do the proving, or this team is still a real contender-ing, than Joshua Jefferson? That's who we're talking about in today's first segment. Now, you're probably upset. We've talked a lot about Joshua Jefferson. That's true. Have we talked about him enough is the question, because I would argue no. At this point, the man is single-handedly carrying the Cyclones in ways that don't even seem realistic. And like I said in the intro, we'll talk about this box score more come the second segment. I want to talk about this team as a whole, but I really want to dial in on Joshua Jefferson. 30 points tonight. 3-0. You didn't hear me say 13. No. You heard me say 30 points from Joshua Jefferson, an astronomical number, in my opinion. 75% from beyond the arc. Yes, that's 3 of 4, but still 75% is 75%. It is. That number doesn't change. 9 of 12 from the free throw line. 7 rebounds, 4 on offense, 3 on defense, 5 assists, 4 steals, and a block to get to, that full stat line there, all of it in 36 minutes. 30 points in 36 minutes. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, this man single-handedly with 30 points, and the game being what it was, we'll cover in the second segment. But 30 points alone is insane, and he did it quietly. It didn't really feel like he had 30 points. He wasn't dominating this game, which is interesting. I mean, that's kind of its own thing right there, isn't it? I mean, if you could do it quietly, maybe the team won't even, the opponent won't even detect it. You can kind of sneak under the radar, just keep throwing up shots. On the night, he went 9 of 12 from the free throw line, 3 of 4 from the three-point line, and 9 of 14 in field goals. So not like he shot like a crazy, he didn't shoot 40 times. He scored 30 points on 14 shots. That's pretty crazy. I'm not going to lie. 9 points for free on 9 of 14. Kind of nuts. Excuse my nose. Still fighting this cold here. Yes, this team played phenomenally. Like, I don't know if 108 points against UCF. I'm sorry, UCF. I really am. That's unfortunate that you kind of got the side of this coin that you did. After a tough loss to WVU, what does Iowa State do? Well, at home, yeah, we're still the top dogs. Okay, we're still here. Still in this game. So 108 feels like a lot, but that'll be covered more in the second segment. What does Joshua Jefferson do outside of just scoring 30 points, though, in the 7 rebounds, which isn't quite a team high, but comes in second in this game, 5 assists, second to only Keshon Gilbert and tied with Demarion Watson. It's the purpose that he goes about making his plays, the purpose in which he goes about making his plays that makes him special. One play in particular, high on the elbow, back, left shoulder to the inside. He's kind of walling off defender, right hand up. You can see this if you're on the YouTube. Catches the ball with one hand and single-handedly, without bringing the left hand to it, right hand on the ball, palming it, whips it to Nate Heisey for 3 on the opposing side. So from if you're looking down from the key down to the baseline, Joshua Jefferson's on the left wing, kind of that elbow, and then out to Nate Heisey on the right wing. Just whips it across court, and Nate Heisey drills it. And what were we talking about prior to this game is none other than Nate Heisey able to find his offensive rhythm. Without Milan Momcilovic in the lineup currently, we need to turn our heads somewhere. And boy, did Joshua Jefferson make a case for himself tonight. But outside of that, maybe we're looking at Nate Heisey. Is this UCF team, is this game an opportunity for Nate Heisey to find his offensive momentum, to find that rhythm again? And yes, that will be covered in the second segment, but Joshua Jefferson knew it as much as I and as you listening. This guy needs to find it. And how else will he find it but besides grabbing the ball with both hands, putting it into the triple threat position and or on the shoulder, up, beef, three-pointer game. Now, did that three-pointer seal the game? No. That's a little bit of an over-exaggeration there. But the fact that just the purpose in which Joshua Jefferson moves and makes plays on top of his actual ability to make plays is phenomenal. He makes plays look so easy down in the paint. There was a couple plays that I've seen this season. I would name one game, but I've seen it throughout the year, which, he is just, I don't want to get Charles Barkley here, but he is getting physical on the inside. Just boom, 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 and then just touch. Finally gets to where he wants to be, gets the defender in a position he wants him, finds a way to get his shoulders turned or to get that ball up into a shooting position and lays it in like it's just a little kiss on the ball and bing, score. This guy, he can do it. I genuinely, we talked about it early in the season. As him, obviously being a transfer from St. Mary's, what would he bring to this team? Immediately we saw that impact. And we'll talk more about immediate impacts that have kind of gone down a little bit, now making a resurgence in this UCF game here in a second. But Joshua Jefferson in particular, we talked about a lot early in the season. And I was blown away. It was every single game. And it kind of got to a point where it was like, okay, this is what he does. This is what he's capable of doing. This is what we kind of need. What we expect for this team to be successful. And then he even outperforms that tonight. This guy, to sum it all up, to say he's a secret weapon would be a ridiculous comment. And yes, it is kind of mentioned right over there. I get that. But I think I'm going to use that word because he's just not talked about enough. He's not talked about in ways more than just 30 points. Yeah, he had 7 rebounds, shot 75% from 3. Great game from Joshua Jefferson. Iowa State able to move past UCF. They'll look towards their next opponent. Like, we don't want to talk about him like that. No. He does more than what shows up on the box score. He's setting screens to get passes set. It's levels. This guy has vision off the charts, basketball IQ like none other, and is simply able to just make the play that's necessary. This guy gets basketball, and Iowa State basketball at that. I couldn't be more excited to have him on the team, and I can't be more excited to see what he does in the coming, few weeks and months. That being said, we got to break down this game as a whole because Joshua Jefferson not the only guy on the floor for the Cyclones. And it will be coming up right after this, so do not go anywhere. I'll be right back. This message is brought to you by PrizePicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, PrizePicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, PrizePicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players, and if your picks hit, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. For me, I'm all about the hot takes this season. This week on PrizePicks, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson for more than 250 passing yards and Travis Kelce for more than 70 receiving yards. It's fun to predict and easy to play. Plus, with PrizePicks Flex Play, you can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you can still get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with PrizePicks. PrizePicks, run your game. Iowa State defeating UCF in the way they did was certainly notable. That is for sure. But let's break it down. Let's get behind the numbers a little bit and talk more about this game and than just the Joshua Jefferson spotlight that we shined in that first segment. Here on Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You know we're going to break down these games, every single one, preview every single game, and cover all the news. Let's start off. Obviously, Joshua Jefferson, 30 points. We talked about this. 30 points in 36 minutes. Other four starters for Iowa State: Deshaun Jackson with 5, Tamin Lipsey with 9, Curtis Jones with 19, and Keshon Gilbert with 21. Then coming off the bench, Nate Heise had 9 points. We'll talk about that. Demarion Watson with 11 points in 11 minutes. Very interesting there. And then a pair of points from Chatfield and Indrusitis. Most notably here, it is Joshua Jefferson, obviously with 30, Keshon Gilbert with 21, and Nate Heise with 9. Okay. 9 points from Nate Heise, important to me. 1 of 4 from 3. I think he made that 3, made it count. Obviously, only played 19 minutes. But more than, the 1-3 from Nate Heise was the pass from Joshua Jefferson. I think that one obviously counted. He's finally able to see it go in. That's going to help. But the 3 that really counted was Demarion Watson. He went 1 of 1 from 3 and went 3 of 3 from the floor, 4 of 5 from the line. And to end it with 11 points there. His 3, however, was like what uncapped this Iowa State offense into a 108-point performance, a 108-83 final score here. What is that, 25-point win for the Cyclones? I don't have the statistic, but Chris Williams mentioned it, and he heard it from somebody else. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You can put it in the comments below. I apologize. This is, through the messenger here. Demarion Watson's 3 was like the first one that Iowa State made in 20-something attempts or some odd number, because obviously they went 1 of 17 against WVU, and then you see this. So I don't have that exact number, but it was a long stretch, and then Demarion Watson, bang, and we're off to the races. We score 108 points in this one. Couple points of emphasis here. You score 108 points, that's wild. We didn't even score 108 points against Jackson State. So we'd like to see that against a Big 12 opponent, obviously showing that the WVU game was not who this team is. And I did see some West Virginia fans saying, hey, shout out to you for thanking our defense. WVU's defense was insane. So we can't just assume that it was only because of a poor shooting night. You're going to have poor shooting nights. You are. You're going to have nights where you shoot lights out. And maybe you have a night where you shoot lights out against a defense like WVU and that game ends up going a different way. Maybe. But we're not playing the hypothetical game here. We're not the SEC. Okay. Tonight, ISU took advantage. Obviously, being at home helped. Moved to 16-2, 6-1 in the conference. That sole loss in the conference being the WVU. And Keshon Gilbert showing up at home. Finally, as I mentioned in that first segment, Joshua Jefferson kind of had this moment, at least here on Locked On Cyclones, of being way up here. I mean, this guy was way up here, and I stopped talking about him. Curtis Jones comes on this thing, right? Tamin Lipsey does his thing. Chilovich, his injury. Joshua Jefferson hadn't really been talked about. Keshon Gilbert is another one. I mean, I made a title and a thumbnail calling Keshon Gilbert the next Kyrie, and then I didn't really see it for a few games. And tonight we saw it. Well, yesterday. It's airing Wednesday. This dude. Oh, my. Are you kidding me? Little fake jelly into a real jelly, breaking ankles on accident. The dude couldn't miss. Now, I don't mean that literally, but did go 10 of 15 from the floor, 1 of 4, from the 3-point line, 21 points. Did have 6 rebounds, shout-outs, 5 on defense there, 8 assists. That's really good. And then you look at the assist number as I transition here, 19 assists on 40 made attempts, so about 50% coming with an assist there. We like to see that. Obviously, we talked about that number against WVU. I think it was like 34 on 20 something, right around that mark. I don't have the box score up, but bad ratio. And so much more happy to see 19 assists in general, and then on top of 40 makes, field goals is even better. Now, the other side of this is we allow 83 points at home from a UCF team. There is two sides to this coin, as you know. That is one of my favorite sayings. Every coin has two sides here. We gave up 83 points, yes. So where do we go from here? Is this bad defense, or is this the flow of the game? Right? Because this became a game where it was kind of like, we're going to go shot for shot and we're going to beat you a little bit. Yes, there were a lot of fouls in this game, 19 and 20. So 19 for UCF, 20 for Iowa State. But I don't know. It's kind of tough. In my opinion, this is the way the game goes. And that's why I'm a fan and not the head coach, and why we have TJ Otz's thoughts or TJ Thotzelberger honestly multiple times a week. We'll probably do it again tomorrow because this guy just doesn't stop spitting bars. It's awesome. Now, my side of that is this is how the game goes. If we're going to make them, they're going to make them. We're going to outmake them. That's how we're going to win this game. We're just going to make everything. Okay. TJ didn't think the same thing, not to ruin TJ Otz's thoughts, but kind of was along the lines of, look, that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to go shot for shot with UCF and have a final score of 200 to 201. Right? Like, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to play defense, and we're going to win the game because we're going to make our shots, but we're also going to stop them. Right? So I'd like to hear where you fall on that in the comments below. But to be, completely frank, I think both sides have extreme validity because you have to feel the game. You have to you can't force it, right? Like, if you're 1 of 17 from 3, maybe we need to get to the line more, which is what TJ said in the last presser, obviously against WVU, and the postgame presser after that, excuse me. But in this one, it was like, we're shooting pretty well. 3-point, we shot 40.9%. Field goal overall, 57%, 56% in there, 75% from the line, 76% from the line. We're spreading it out. Just kind of let the boys go, We shot 25 free throws. It's still a solid number. That's how I feel about it. But TJ being who he is, and the methodology that he goes with mentally, and where he's at, and where this team, how he functions, how he wants this team to be mentally, I understand what he's saying. And I agree. This team does, in a situation like that, let's see the defense step up a little bit. You can still make your shots. Let's just see the defense step up. I don't know how many possessions were in this game. It was kind of like an insane number. I actually don't know. But, I felt like this was Iowa State basketball as a whole. 18 fast break points, 25 points off of turnovers, 16 second chance points. We spread it out. We had 24 points off the bench, 54 points in the paint. And it was never not Iowa State's game, in my opinion. I thought Iowa State had this in control the entire game. So that's, in my opinion, TJ being a little bit overcritical, but you have to have a coach like that. You have to have a coach like that. And also, he's not that wrong, to be completely honest. What if we win that game 108-17? How are we talking about the game then? You know what I mean? So, in my opinion, as a host here, I guess, which gives me no platform, but either way, I say, let the boys shoot. Let them play this fast style. This is how we're going to win this game. This team can win in so many ways. But I completely also 1,000,000% understand where TJ's coming from. And, just because this game's going this way doesn't mean we get away from our fundamentals. And I love that. You have to have a coach who's keeping you grounded, keeps you reminds you of where this team is. What is this team good at? What is this team known for? Let's play defense. Let's stop UCF. Then we don't have to make every shot. It doesn't come down to who can make the last shot. So shout out to TJ for that one. Great mentality there. And it ends up working out. Iowa State, obviously, with a huge win over UCF, 108-83. And, boy, we're back. We're so back. That was so much more fun than WVU. I cannot lie. That being said, Iowa State women will be looking to rebound, no pun intended, against BYU after their loss to WVU. We'll talk about that coming up right after this. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, promo code SPACE80. Iowa State basketball is rolling right now after the men dominate UCF at home after their loss at WVU. The question is now, how can the women respond to their loss to WVU against BYU, also at home? We'll answer it here on Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The first question on everyone's mind right now is Emily Ryan. Obviously sat out against WVU, the West Virginia Mountaineers, and her lack of presence was felt. Let's just call it how it is. Is she absolutely vital to this team? I'd almost argue yes, I would. Emily Ryan does so much for this team in so many more ways than just her points and assists, and it was felt. Her calling presence was something Addie Brown had mentioned. We missed that out there. When is she coming back? When is she coming back to this team? Well, Bill Fennelly, talked about it a little bit, said she's going to practice today, that being Tuesday, and she didn't practice on Monday. If she feels good, we'll give it a shot on Wednesday. We'll leave it at that. It's an illness. Bill said, Mr. Coach Fennelly, said that, it's affected players and coaches a little bit, around the organization. And we hope to have Emily Ryan back. I hope she's back as well. Obviously, as we take on BYU at home, it'll be nice that she doesn't have to travel. That is for sure. Now, let's talk a little bit about BYU because they are our opponent. Let's just put it that way. Delaney Gibb is their points leader right now with 16.9 points per game, and Emma Calvert is their second in command with points as far as 13 points a game. You got Whitting with 10.5 and Congdon with 8.2 to round out the top four there. Hudgens is going to be their rebound leader, and Whitting again with their assist leader at 3.9, and then Delaney Gibb coming in at 3.8, following that up closely behind. Just to give you a few names for this BYU team. Now, that being said, this BYU team probably not the best team that Iowa State's going to face all year, and I do hope that they can Iowa State being, they can kind of rebound and get one here against BYU. Looking at BYU's schedule, lost to number 22 Iowa, so did the Cyclones. And then in conference play, currently 14th. Not a great number. What do we got here? I think one conference win. Yeah, lost to Arizona, Cincinnati, West Virginia. Then they do beat Houston. They lose to Kansas State and Texas Tech. Right, they're 1-5 in the conference, 5.5 games back, 10-7 overall. This team is kind of the same thing as Texas Tech. The Big 12 is a tough conference to play in. You got to be ready at all times. Being at home will certainly help the Cyclones in this situation, but it's never a given. That being said, I do expect the Cyclones to win this game. And the question will really be if, especially one, does Emily Ryan play? And if she does, do they spread out the scoring as we've talked about previously, right? Iowa State played so well against Arizona State, Arizona, and Texas Tech in spreading out that point total, trying to get more people involved. And then West Virginia, things change a little bit. West Virginia obviously knew exactly how to attack Iowa State, frustrated Audie Crooks. He only had 13 points in that game. But can we get it? Can we get it back? Can we get it rolling against BYU? Then we'll play UCF at home. Then we take on Kansas State. We're not getting too far into the future. This is a BYU preview, but obviously, we'd like to build some momentum here. BYU is a team to do it against. They're our next opponent. So, sorry, meant to mute there. This team, we just kind of need to get the momentum going. We're currently projected to be last four in, not first four out, last four in. So we do kind of need to go on a little bit of a tear here. And building some momentum at home is a great spot to do that. For the rest of the year, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games at home. 6 games out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 11. Let's do it. I don't see why not. Let's get Audie Crooks hot inside, and then Addie Brown, Sydney Harris from the 3. Emily Ryan, whenever she comes back from her illness, couple assists, she gets some points. Her ability to drive is insane. I don't see why this team can't make the tournament. I think this team is very much tournament eligible, ready. They're currently 6th in the Big 12, a conference that's extremely tough to play in. Obviously when you look at obviously West Virginia in there, but Kansas State, TCU, Baylor, these teams are good. This is a good conference, and Iowa State coming in 6th there. Nothing to scoff at. This is a very gettable game for the Cyclones. And I think it's almost kind of a must-win, as easy as it is. And must-win is such a ridiculous term, in my opinion. But if you drop this one to BYU, it's going to be tough, especially for the committee, because we'll face 2 tough opponents, Kansas State and TCU. And if you win both of those, a loss against BYU doesn't look that bad. It's like a weird game, but you just lost to West Virginia, and the way that the early conference schedule went, and then you don't have any major wins right now. You obviously lost to UConn. You lost to South Carolina. You lost to Iowa. No ranked wins at this point. This is kind of one we need. We need to build momentum here, and we need to, obviously being at home. Let's just get it going. Let's just kind of see what we can do here. We're not asking for anything crazy. We're not coming off of 20 West Virginia and facing number 1. No, we're facing BYU. No disrespect to BYU, but they have certainly struggled this year. I don't think that's an unfair statement. 10-7, 14 in the Big 12. That's not by any means the best record or anything I've seen. So Iowa State, we can handle this one. We can do it. Okay? Absolutely. Come back tomorrow to see us break down this game in detail, and then obviously we'll talk about the men and their trip to Arizona. It's going to be an exciting one. Basketball is at an all-time high, and Cyclone basketball is beyond even that. That's for sure. If you're still watching, what are you doing if you're not subscribed? We've done this song and dance. Just subscribe so we can prove it's a Cyclone State. End of story. Until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.